we recommend that you find a particular channel of a dream of the new paradigm that you are the most excited about, and then do it.
And, if you have a dream, if you have a desire, you were given that dream and that desire because it can become reality. It can become reality. And in fact, we're at this time and space where we need you to step into that. No more excuses. We are all here now for you, for us each, to be able to step into remembering who we are, why we're here, and what is ours to do.
We're not a corporation. We're not a nonprofit. We're not an unincorporated association. We are literally a movement of people, like the Green Movement. And with that framework in mind, for individuals, what we help individuals do is go through a 4-step program. And at the end of those 4 steps, you're living in the new paradigm. And part of what we consider to be living in the new paradigm is being financially autonomous, living with a community that loves you and supports you and treats you well, and actualizing on a vision. And that could be anything from a retreat to an educational course to a new technology or a business or a humanitarian effort or any other piece of the new paradigm you think of. So what we do is we help people who have a particular dream, but who don't have the gravity to actualize it. And we say, oh, hey, we know these like 12 other guys and they're like doing that dream. Do you want to join them? And then we facilitate them connecting with people who have this similar dream to actualize on it. And some of the ways that looks like are our intentional communities, where we have about 200 people living on at any given moment on all of our properties. We have our businesses, where that's more standard, like if you're an engineer or a very specialized professional skill set, we can plug you into one of those. We have a lot of technical projects. One I'm really excited about is called the DAO.space. And it is a voting platform to allow for, it's actually forked out of Lumio. Does anyone here know about Lumio? Yeah. It's best open source free voting platform ever. So we took it, we forked it, and we're adding interoperability between groups. So a group can make a vote, and then that vote can get carried into other groups, and you can actually get multi-group consensus on specific things. Yeah, those are some of the main things we plug people into. We work with nonprofits. One of my favorite groups is called One Community Global. Anyone familiar with them? You should all be familiar with them. It's a team of 30 engineers that have been working for 10 years to design open source blueprints for any size of intentional community, with a very full spectrum of blueprints, from like food to housing to education to everything else I can't think of right now.
So you mentioned the 4-step process to living in the new paradigm. Can you just repeat what those were again? Step 1, becoming
financially autonomous. Mm-hmm. And we have 2 things to help with that, and we're developing a 3rd thing right now. But the first is we work with people to repair and build their credit, and then get maximize on their lines of credit from traditional banking institutions, including personal credit and business credit. And then we have a ever-growing investment portfolio of cryptocurrency investments and green sustainable business investments that are producing more than 30% returns yearly. So that allows people to pay back their initial loan amount and then live on the returns. And that has worked very successfully for me and other members of the Earth Nation.
Yeah. So maybe I just want to pause there for a moment, because that's one of the things that I feel most excited about, is really resourcing our community of heart-centered people who in the past have not been willing to tap into the resources of, for example, the credit system, because we want to push it away. But my greatest dream is for us to leverage the resources of the credit system that are there and available for us. And Earth Nation has an entire plan on how those resources can be accessed, and then be able to fuel those resources back into sustainable businesses that are already existing, and then to support you to be able to live so that you can go through the other steps of shifting into the new paradigm. So once you're financially autonomous, yes, what comes after that?
Finding your family, finding communities where you can live in and be welcome and be with like minds who love you and support you. About 7 years ago, we formed the Tribe of Awakening Sovereignty, which is kind of what started this. And that grew into a network of 200 intentional communities in 50 countries. But since then, there's been 7 other intentional community networking projects. One of the most famously known is the Intentional Fellowship of Communities. And so much love and appreciation for every network that's come about. And Namundo basically took the cake when it comes to the user interface. They just have the best website to list all the communities in. So we are suggesting that we aggregate there. And Namundo has the largest growing network of listed communities that have events or workshops or volunteer experiences or residential opportunities. The vast majority. What was that?
Say that reference again.
Namundo.org.
NUMUNDO.org.
All at earthnation.world. Yeah, so just going to workshops, taking vacations, really just visiting these different communities that look on the website to be the most aligned with you. And as someone who's served 71 land-based intentional communities in my life so far, I want to let you know it's going to take a little bit of dating. A good website doesn't mean the best community for you. But if you visit enough communities, you will find one that you absolutely love and that love you too and that you don't want to leave. And then you can leave, but you always have a space to go back to where you're grounded and things are good. And it's so important in this new paradigm to have that and not just have your little microcosm, but to have your little microcosm in a macrocosm of like-minded beings.
So that's step 2. So you have become financially autonomous. Then find your family where you want to live. Be grounded, your space, your place, where you can imagine always being able to come back there and know that you belong. So we're moving up Maslow's hierarchy of needs here, if you can see. First, your security, then your belonging, and what comes after that?
After that, we recommend that you find a particular channel of a dream of the new paradigm that you are the most excited about, and then do it. Use your resources, work with your family, find like minds through the Earth Nation Network, and literally implement and actualize on a dream that hopefully you've had for a long time. But if not, we will also help you find that dream that is most resonant with you.
Mm-hmm. And, if you have a dream, if you have a desire, you were given that dream and that desire because it can become reality. It can become reality. And in fact, we're at this time and space where we need you to step into that. No more excuses. We are all here now for you, for us each, to be able to step into remembering who we are, why we're here, and what is ours to do. And my understanding of what has kept some of this from happening is that sometimes it's really hard for us to get along. And so I think that the process that we're going to do now is in support of knowing how we all fit together so that nobody needs to do more than what is theirs to do. Because a big part of what I can tell, the not getting along, comes from us not always knowing what's ours to do. So sometimes we'll do what's more than ours to do, or sometimes we won't do anything. And we freeze, right? Freeze or fight or flight. And so a lot of that comes out in how we express ourselves in our life purpose and how we organize together. And I do have a belief that if we can really learn to organize together with our financial needs met, with our belonging needs met, and then living out our purpose, well, we can do everything. We can do everything that needs to be done. And so it sounds like we're going to play a game that will allow us to do that. And my understanding is that in order to play this game, we need to have some sense of what we have to give. Yes? Would that be helpful?
Yes.
Okay.
And the 4th step.
Oh, yes, the 4th step. Great.
And the 4th step is to be an ambassador and share that this new way of life is possible and is, in fact, easy to now enter into with the help of the Earth Nation.
Yeah, and I would say within that 4th step, that we heard that as well from Juanpa and Regan this morning, right? Share it. Share it. And I think so many of us want that. Does everybody want to share it? Yeah, so that's something that we have the desire to do. But I also get for myself that I don't, until I feel like I have it, then I'm held back from sharing it. So there is the need to step into it so you can share it. And one of the things that is really helpful to know is, what do you actually have to give? What are the resources that you can bring to this dream? And I see those resources. A lot of us are holding ourselves back because there's an unwillingness or an inability or a wound around seeing what we actually have to give. And so one of the things that I want you to look at is, where might you be blocking your ability to see your resources because of past programming? And does anybody have an idea of where you might be blocking the full embodiment of your resources and being able to bring your resources all the way through because of any past programming? What might some of that past programming be?
Fear.
Fear?
Fear of success.
Fear of success. Like, how would that manifest? What is this fear of success thing that some of us have? What does it look like in the day-to-day?
Like, that you might actually do it, and then you have that responsibility.
Responsibility. So this fear of success might be, oh God, I'm going to be so burdened by a responsibility. Yes, certainly the more that I move through my system, the more responsibility I feel, and sometimes that can get to this part where it's at my capacity. So the abundance codes that we learned this morning really help us with that, right? What else? But actual grounded resources. Anybody see where they might be holding back from bringing their full resources through?
I've got one I see a lot,
Mm-hmm.
And it's the opposite of what he said. It's fear of failure.
Right.
So because this is new-ish, at least to people who don't know about it yet, they're just afraid it's not going to work out.
Right. And then I'll look bad, or I'll look, like people will not trust me anymore. I think that's really what comes with the fear of failure, is then people won't trust me anymore. But really what it is, right, is I won't trust myself. I won't trust myself. So there's a way that I think that something that might be patterned into us is a lack of self-trust. So we don't actually call in all of the resources that we can because maybe we don't trust ourselves to use them wisely. And, as Dakota was speaking, I hear this little voice in the back of my head. I keep hearing this thing where people say, oh, it's a cult. It's a cult. How many of you feel like afraid of that word? Okay, yeah. So at the heart of culture is cult. And there's a lot of really great parts about cults, cultures, intentional cultures, and there's shadow parts. And when I hear Dakota and what the entire alliance is about, because it's decentralized, there's not a person, a guru that you are in service to. The guru that you are in service to is you, your soul. So let it be a cult of you, a sovereign you, in unity. And so your resources are in service to that. So the other resource that I did want to speak to, we all, of course, have a resource of your service. Your service. What is your service to give, and for which you receive exchange? We're not going to talk about that today. There's 8 entrepreneurial archetypes I've identified that you can leverage to create a resource flow model. We'll do a follow-up Zoom or webinar on that so I could teach those to you. But the resource that I really want you to feel into is the resource of this idea of your savings, that you're saving for a rainy day. I believe that the rainy day is here. We are living it right now, and whatever you were saving for the future is here. The future is now. And my desire is for you to use that in service to creating a sustainable life for yourself, rather than some amount of money in the bank that is going to do something in the future, because your future is here and now. And what is that later thing going to be anyway that you're saving up for? If you have something clear, great. But if not, consider that maybe it is to live your life now sustainably. And that's not a popular opinion in our mainstream culture. So it will require some facing of fears of your family, of shifting in order to fully step into that, and some deep trusting of yourself to know that what you would be investing that in is your own sovereignty, your own resourcefulness, your own creativity, and a community that will support you. And I understand that that requires a great deal of trust, a great deal of trust. And then the other piece is leveraging and activating these credit resources that Dakota is talking about. And again, the fact that Earth Nation has a template for this that we can utilize to face our fear of using credit, when I can't imagine a better thing for credit to be used for than to allow you to step into the new paradigm, Because as we each step in, the ripple out allows more to step in. And then once we are all in it, we've created it. We're living it. We're being it, most importantly. We're being it. So let's do a game. Maybe I could say one more piece, because there is also the piece of your inheritance. Some of you are inheriting significant resources, and you are in a lot of shame about that. And you carry with you this concern about, maybe I didn't earn the money, maybe, why me? And I want to say that if that is you, it was for a purpose. You are here on the planet to steward those resources in a way that heals the wounds that created those resources. And that, to me, is your responsibility, and it's a privilege, and it's a gift. And please have no shame around it. Although if there is shame, let's clear it so that you can receive those resources and trust yourself to use them wisely in service to this planet, to our relationships with each other, and to your own internal guru and your own internal sovereignty. Yes?
I'm not sure I got the 3 main services. Could you just read?
Oh, there's 8 services. There's 8 entrepreneurial archetypes. I'm not going to go into them now.
I didn't mean that.
Oh.
Much earlier you said 3 main services. I wrote them down, but I don't think I got it.
What did you get?
I think the first one might have been universal basic income.
So we actually have more than 3 main services, but that was we have a little over 100 projects we're working on, from tech projects to business projects to humanitarian efforts to intentional communities. I could talk about that all day.
That's right.
But
doesn't just give you 3 bullets.
Well, and our ability to actually do the things that we talk about doing comes from our ability to organize. And so that Earth Nation is organized and creating, and currently has 100 projects. What I'm really interested to do here now is our game, where we can learn how to organize ourselves so that we can actually move our projects and dreams forward. Rather than just having them and thinking about them and writing them down, how can we organize to come together to face the parts of ourselves that want to take control of everything, that want to win and want to live in this win-lose paradigm, because that is patterned into our beings, and shift it truly into the win-win paradigm, and also move things forward. So
Yes.
Let's do that.
Excellent. Before we hop into the interactive part of this workshop, I just wanted to conclude on one other way of looking at the Earth Nation Alliance. And there's a major section of the Earth Nation that is dedicated as like an incubator or a startup helper. And we do financing, we do legal work, we do software, branding, physical land development, natural construction, commercial construction, food forestry, little bit of everything. And when groups choose to make a DAO, the Earth Nation will support that DAO for future agreements rather than upfront capital, which helps DAOs get off the ground. So the Earth Nation really is here to support the development of new DAOs, which in turn, as they grow, will then add a service to the overall alliance to continue assisting the development of more decentralized autonomous organizations.
Yeah, let me just clarify that. I see a little confusion out there. So this decentralized autonomous organization, anybody's project can become a decentralized autonomous organization within this alliance.
Called?
Earth Nation.
Yeah, but is there
Earth Nation.
There wasn't something else you just said.
So, for example, Anders has a project in the Grass Valley area called Heartland, and Heartland could become a DAO within the Earth Nation Alliance and then could tap into using the legal, financial, funding structures
Or
and marketing,
advertising.
software if that was needed, technology, all of the services that already exist within the Earth Nation Alliance by becoming a decentralized autonomous organization within the Alliance. I have a collective called Eyes Wide Open. I've been looking at how am I going to make this a share the wealth company. Well, rather than doing it all on my own, I can become a nation within the Earth Nation. Eyes Wide Open Nation can then plug in. So I have an ecosystem that can plug into the macro ecosystem. This is how we build the parallel systems.
Wow.
How does a organization join or like what's the criteria or how do we do that? So and the example of that is I started something called the Valhalla Movement. We have a physical land. We've done tons of stuff. We've also moved through in marketing and other services to move the mission forward. Built an online school, all kinds of stuff. But how does somebody join or a group of people join as a collective or as a community?
So there's two layers of it. The first layer is if what you're doing fits our mission statement and you're embodying the paradigm shift. There's a level of support we will offer you unconditionally.
Can
Second,
you say what the mission statement is?
To find, create, and propagate ethical and decentralized alternatives to every government and corporate product and service.
Yes. Yes. So that's one. You have to be aligned with the mission. What's the next?
If your organization is willing to share an excess of something that another organization in the Earth Nation wants, or more than one, and are willing to do so, then if our collective network has an excess of something that your organization wants more of, we will share.
So
it's
we
needs
all
and
have
excess matching internationally with all kinds of different organizations.
So we have
through
this
mapping available resources and then distributing them with our collective decision-making process that we're going to get into today with this group, with this startup DAO.
And this is how we begin to move off of the Federal Reserve.
Woo! Yeah. And the dollar.
Yep.
The dollar. This is how we begin to actually move beyond the transition. We're in transition times now, and here's how we begin to be able to exchange the resources that we have without the need to store the value in the dollar.
Can I ask a question about the crypto? Are you actually using the crypto as a currency in this movement?
Absolutely. Yeah, we have a main currency called Equality Keys, and it's basically an international digitized resource-based economy. And what we're doing is we are interconnecting that currency with other currencies that are literally backed by communities and real assets, real resources, not speculation. And we are enabling our currency and many other currencies to basically be interchangeable. So I can go over to the Cora Nation, which is one of our allies, and I can spend my equality keys, and they can do the same vice versa. And as new nations come in with their own currencies, we enable any nation's currency to be spent in every other nation or group with the strict understanding that none of these currencies are ever to be sold on the open market in exchange for fiat, which means that all of our currencies are slowly becoming more valuable in correlation to US dollars.
Are you planning to have a bank or some place where people can...
ATMs.
ATMs.
Yep. That's right.
How, if a community is to accept those keys, how are they able to get value for them? How are they able to use them?
There are a lot of things you can use it on. A lot of communities, a lot of services. I could talk about that for a while, but basically every single thing I've said that we offer as the Earth Nation, you can get with our equality keys, including access to our communities, various levels of resources or services, etc.
And it seems like one of the key factors will be that this these nations will need to grow food, lots and lots and lots of food, because that's ultimately what we
Organic.
want to be able to exchange for is food.
And housing.
Yeah, food
Land.
and housing. Yeah.
Do that now, actually.
Yeah, one more here.
Is there a directory on the website of the products and services that those keys can be used toward?
There's a land-based directory, but we don't have a product-based store up yet. In fact, we don't have many products. It's almost entirely services and raw resources and properties at this point. Yep. But we are evolving that.
Yeah, we're growing. Matthew?
Are the DAO members of the organization, are they the same, or do the same rules apply to the organizations that the fund invests in?
The same standards, you mean, of the mission?
Do you have a fund that has like a 30% return investing in?
Minimum 30, or rather, we're not guaranteeing the return on the fund, but we are saying that we only invest into businesses that have been producing that much for at least 2 years.
Right. So is my question is, are all the businesses in the fund, are those DAO organizations within the network? Or?
They are not. They are totally standard centralized corporations. Yep. They work really well. So DAO isn't a corporation, but a DAO starts corporations, and instead of having the profits from that corporation go to a few select people or one person, those profits are given to a church run by the DAO, and the vote holders of the DAO sit on the board of the church, and then we collectively choose what to do with the resources generated by the corporation. Corporations are great. They're super effective. We're not. This isn't a replacement for corporations. It's another layer. So you and me, and you and you, and you and you and you and you and you can relate to each other without a hierarchy, without a CEO or someone who's taking an uneven cut of the pool.
Or with healthy hierarchy. But, the hierarchy that's needed for leadership, but without a one person takes all mentality.
Right. I like to think of it as a forest, and then, things growing around that, as opposed to a pyramid. Great. You guys ready to get into this?
Yeah, any other questions before the game? All right, let's play a game.
All right. Take it away, Leela.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Leela Starr, and I joined up with Dakota about 2 years ago when it was the Tribe of Awakening Sovereignty. And I was on this sort of meta global mission, and I felt like I was part of a new UN. That was the feeling in me, like this bigger holistic system. And then when I learned what Dakota, the Tribe of Awakening Sovereignty, was doing and how they were actually using a currency, and that it was exchangeable, and that people were working and receiving this currency in exchange for housing. And I just was like, wow, this is actually a model that isn't just a vision, it's actually in process. So I joined about 2 years ago. We became the Awakening Sovereignty Collective, and then we became the Earth Nation. And in the last 2 years, we have been experimenting with collective wealth stewardship. So as people buy into the Equality Keys system, we then had a collective pool to say, how do we want to collectively allocate our resources, our land, for our highest mutual benefit, right? Like, super fun. We got to start experimenting and playing with that and voting. So there's a body of vote holders who are choosing to say, I'm here to make these big, these responsible decisions for us. So just a little background. So been a center coordinator of Earth Nation, and then I also co-founded Earth Cycle. And I just feel really honored to be in this movement with you all, like, just that we're here now at this event, in this game of unification, in this game of where we're bringing our collective pieces. So today it's co-creation. We're going to do an experiment. It's theoretical. It's an experience that we potentially could take beyond this room and manifest into real life. So we're going to practice being a DAO today. We're going to set an intentional declaration. So, like, our high heart, holistic health version of a global culture that works. We'll do that simply. Then we're going to move into a phase plan and then specific projects. So really looking at this from a global level. And then I just invite you today to feel into moving through this exercise with both your masculine and feminine. So listening, deep listening, and then also making actions for the purpose of this exercise. We're going to be doing practice in consensus and decision making together. So yeah, I just invite you to have fun and feel into what's birthing out of the collective group, and we'll begin the game.
Yeah, and one note, when we get to the project section, that'll be an excellent place for anyone here who's working on a project that's part of the paradigm shift to present what they're doing. And then if people want to keep playing the game, later we will make a resource pool, and then we'll look at all those projects and collectively decide on which ones we want to focalize around to actualize on the intentional declaration and action plan that we make here today. And before we get into the game, wanted to showcase an example here that we did a few days ago. Our friend Chase here came with an excellent series of ideas that he wanted to implement, and we worked together using this model to come out with a actionable and very timely plan for Chase to actualize on his dreams and really crystallize what he wanted.
I just wanted to say this isn't necessarily my dream, but a collective vision of my tribe as well. Yeah, it was really great. We came here with a plan, to actualize and to do. And so I know a lot of you are here to do as well. And so, yeah, we came in with a high intention to step out from this event and not go back to the old paradigm. And using Earth Nations and collaboration, we now have created a hemp community coin. We actually went up to the Grace House and actually created our own cryptocurrency. We set up our own webpage to start an IO, an initial coin offering. And that happened right here, right now, like that. Wow. And so we are truly here to do and to create and to make things happen. And Earth Nations is like creating that for us. And so I went from being in fear and being worried about like where do we fit into all of this, to realizing that we were called to work into the hemp industry. So we created the hemp community coin to bring together all these different hemp projects that are going on and create a product line to build hempcrete houses and to invest in hemp technology, because we believe that's the next wave that's going to help a lot of these communities thrive. And we actualized it, and we have very clear steps that when we leave here, we will be obtaining the funding to fund a few different hemp farms that will then create a funding mechanism that will invest into a lot of your other projects here that want to co-create in that way, whether it's creating homeless structures from our hemp, our hemp building 3D printing machine. Yeah. And so many other beautiful visions that are here. So it's been wonderful speaking to all of you, because all of you are all part of this and we all flow. So I just want to give you guys that declaration of like, we're here to like really get things done, get grounded, to crystallize this manifestation together. So thank you for being present and being here with us. And it's been very humbling and so much faith in that this is happening. So I just wanted to give you guys that, a testament of our journey. Coming here without having a plan and leaving here with very clear action steps. And we're playing that game right now, and we're all going to work together after this to continue and create actionables for everyone that was here to do. So, yeah.
Thank you so much for doing that work while you were here. So good.
Would you mind giving an example of the intentional declaration and phase plan that we made for your organization? Just to help give us an idea of how we want to structure our intentional declaration and phase plan.
So we have, so when we started in the beginning, which is very important, we all got grounded and in tune with each other. And that was very key, because we want to change the old paradigm to the new paradigm. And that means bringing spirituality into our organization. So being present with each other, breathing, oming together. That's something that's very powerful that I've never even experienced until here. So that was really awesome, and it brings about total presence and brings out the heart in the organization. So one of our first statements was for all generations to work together in harmony, to give everything we have to offer, to create a regenerative culture for all beings to thrive, to create funding mechanisms to help everyone accomplish their dreams and vision, to facilitate the use and knowledge of plant medicines, to give back and restore our planet for future generations, to inspire and empower all beings to remember, embody, and express unconditional love, to merge indigenous cultures with the ever-advancing world, to create a planetary system that facilitates anyone that asks for help to receive the help they ask for. And that's really key, because it takes courage to ask for help. Mm-hmm. And so I want everyone to know this is a space that we're all here to serve each other. So let's help one another. And a really fun one is to unite with the Interdimensional Galactic Federation. So yeah, that's the start to that. And then we moved into phases, but I guess we can do this part, and then do you want to do that right now?
Yeah, why don't you just do the phase example?
Cool. Yeah. So then we broke it down into 3 phases, which we'll have up here that we'll co-create together. Phase 1 was to create the funding mechanisms to sustain and support the core team's vision. So that's going to give us that sovereignty that we talked about to be in our heart's purpose and to be fully in alignment. And then phase 2 was to embody an international consensual-based alternative to traditional government. But I want to add to that, working with the current system as well, because we believe there will be a bridge at some point, and that's what we are. And then phase 2, also creating a 30-person capacity, completely sustainable and regeneratively purposed community to facilitate the individual purposes of those gathered to facilitate an environment where all beings can thrive together in their fullest potential. And then phase 3 would be to facilitate the fractalization of our models and to create a sustainable transportation network and to expand the international digitized resource economy. So then taking our systems and duplicating that wherever it fits in. And so that's really our goal, and we look forward to creating this together with you. So
brilliant. Yes, that's just one example. And we also had a page of actionables because the Earth Nation is here to facilitate that, and we have a lot of help to offer him, as we do to each of you. So the first thing that we need to figure out how to agree on is our threshold of consensus. Because in a group this big, it's unlikely that all of us will always agree on everything. So can we agree to disagree to some small amount? And for the sake of this game and for the ease of it, I recommend an initial consensus of 90%. Whoever agrees to a 90% threshold, raise your left hand. Is there anyone that disagrees to that?
Hey, we're already at 100.
Wow.
We got one dissenter over there. Oh, Annie's running away. Great, I think that's actually helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Can you meet that?
What?
He says he doesn't want to disrupt the process, but that's not how he does things. So everybody agreed except one person. So how do we meet that?
Then technically, you just don't have a vote in this particular DAO because it's not aligned with you. Yep. But you can make a fractal DAO with 100% consensus and try to make that work out, which it definitely will underneath 30-person scale if you get the right people. But having done this with many, many organizations, I've found that especially over 10 and absolutely over 30, that there just becomes blockages where no one moves forward and everyone leaves because 1 or 2 people have a different idea. So thank God that we have agreed to disagree up to 10%. Thank goodness. How many of us are in here? Let's see. About 40. Great. So we have consensus -4 to move forward. Excellent. So now we're going to get started on our intentional declaration. But before we do that, I want to just drop in again for a little bit. Let's get out of our heads, into our bodies, into each other, and build the field again before we talk about what our shared intentions are. Let's start with just 30 seconds of silence. And let's take 3 deep breaths together, starting on an exhale. Inhaling. One more. All right, and let's just do 1 Om together. Exhale. Inhale our intentions. So when we think about an intention to add to see if we can collectively agree on, we want to think big picture, like planetary scale picture. And let me do an example here. So the first one I'd like to see if we all agree on or not is the intention to create thriving systems for the earth and humanity to accelerate the end of suffering. Who agrees to that?
Yeah.
Well, that's the next question is who disagrees to that? Oh, great. You all agree on that. That's amazing. Thank God. All right. Yep. Make your life a little easier. So it's important that these generally be about a one-sentence statement. Try to avoid run-ons. And if any of you has an intention you'd like to share, please raise your hand. Think about it for a minute, too. No rush.
So I would like to create a dynamic resource flow model that fuels the entire planet to have what they need. To be able to exchange what they have for what they need.
Like that. Can you say that again in a single sentence?
To have a dynamic resource flow engine that allows everyone on the planet who has something to give to exchange what they have to give in exchange for what they need.
May I offer a simplification?
That'd be great.
To create a dynamic resource engine.
Yes.
Resource flow engine.
Yeah.
That facilitates everyone having what they need.
Yes. Great. Thank you.
Who agrees to that? And then who disagrees to that? Oh, great. Consensus again. So easy with this group.
Okay.
I think the difference between what I heard the two of you say, brought up this question to me. Does everyone have to have something to exchange to receive something that meets their needs?
Right now, until we have enough of the things to give, yes. But I hope quite soon, no. I firmly personally believe in universal basic income, especially in this technological age where we can have robots make our food and do lots of things. We really can easily, unconditionally provide for everyone. But first, we have to get the things to redistribute. So in that meantime, it is very important to exchange.
So can we have phase 3 be that you don't need to have something to give?
Yes, propose another intention.
Well, actually, the way that Dakota phrased that one about that everyone can have their needs met, it's all in how you interpret it. That's why I asked the question. So the way that's phrased allows for the possibility, and under that somebody wouldn't have to have something to offer to exchange and still could receive their needs.
That's right. Yes.
Beautiful.
Can you read it again?
To create dynamic resource flow engine where everyone's needs are met.
Right, so it didn't build in the exchange component.
Yeah.
You simplified that.
He simplified that right out.
I'm thinking there's doing this exchanges and there's being this exchanges.
Correct.
And that's the difference.
Yeah.
So
all right.
In phase 1, there would be a reciprocal exchange.
Correct.
Yeah.
Or at least I think so. We'll find out if the rest of us think so when we get to the phase plan. Does anyone else have an intention they'd like to add?
The aliens
I've got a couple actually. Oh, let's have a.
To facilitate the liberation. To facilitate the liberation of the heart of humanity.
Oh. Woo. Who agrees to that?
Great. Can I vote twice?
If you have someone delegating to you, you can, but we haven't gotten into that yet.
What does that mean?
What does that mean? It's the spiritual component of a free human versus a conditional human, an unconditionally loving human. Is that?
Does anyone disagree to her statement? Is that a disagreement?
Yeah, there's a disagreement and like a refinement. The facilitate is the challenge that I have to work with. But if I'm just one.
Well, you can offer an improvement. How would you like to change it?
Could you repeat what you said?
To facilitate the liberation of both
Of the heart of humanity.
So to me, like the facilitation liberation means that it's something outside versus like I don't know. It feels like it's something that's
like awakening.
Yeah, like encouraged or
to
like,
empower.
Like
Empower.
Yeah, something like that. You feel better. Like,
To empower the liberation?
the liberation is. I don't think.
Oh, you don't like the liberation?
I don't think the heart needs to be liberated. I think it needs to be tapped into.
Oh, got it. That's the
awakening.
Or drawn forth, or like. It's because everyone, I think, inherently has a heart that they want to share, but it's as
to actualize.
Said is like it gets shut off because it's like don't laugh like that. You sound like a that then his heart closes.
So do you have a one sentence statement that summarizes what she said with a different word that you'd like to offer?
Sure. Yours again.
To empower the liberation of the heart of humanity.
How about the opening?
To actualize?
Yeah, actualize to empower the opening of the heart of humanity.
Bill accepts it. Does the rest of us accept that?
Yeah.
Can you say it again?
To empower the opening of the heart of humanity, or to encourage the opening of the heart.
Pick one.
Empower.
All right. Who agrees to that? We got an agreement? Is there anyone that disagrees? Oh, great. All right, we'll have that. Does anyone else have one they'd like to add? Boom.
To destigmatize and legalize psychedelics so that all those who are ready can access them at that point.
Ooh, yes. May I offer a simplification for the purpose of our whiteboard space? Just the first half of what you said. Is that okay?
Destigmatize and legalize psychedelics.
Boom. There, right there. What do you think about that? We agree?
We call them entheogenics.
I like that. Can we agree to that upgrade? Entheogenics? And is there anyone that disagrees with the legalization and destigmatization of entheogens?
Oh, LSD does not qualify?
I would offer a change to that in plant medicine.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's
Full
good.
access.
Because it's a difference when it's chemically based and when it grows out of the earth.
All right. Well,
I like synthetics.
Well, this is good. It sounds like we need clarification because there's some dissonance in the field regarding entheogens, plant medicines, psychedelics, synthetics. Some of those meet more than one character. There's crossover, and there might be a point where we actually don't have 90%, depending on what we choose. This could be a good example.
what if we just called it medicine?
No, because it's totally different.
Yeah, I have a proposal.
All right.
Paola has a proposal.
We recognize the right and autonomy of people to self-medicate.
Yeah.
Huh.
Slightly different meaning.
I think that's gotten us in a lot of trouble thus far.
Okay, how about we are for the decriminalization and legalization of, because I don't know, I feel like a lot of people are incarcerated because of the war on drugs, so I would really like for us to have language on recognizing that we recognize that the war on drugs has to end. So I don't know if someone wants to get fancy.
I would take that a step further and say we need to change how we treat criminals and treat them more like sick people who need help.
But that's like
But,
the conversation.
but that's exactly. So we need to skip back now, and it sounds like we have a three-way fork on this particular one, and we can do a poll.
Most of the people
So-
incarcerated are in there because of.
We just gotta pause there, though. I'd love to hear you. Give me a second. Thank you so much. So we're gonna do a poll, and you can only vote once. And the three options are plant medicines, entheogens, and psychedelics.
I don't know what entheogens
Yeah,
entheogens
entheogens
cover entheogens and like
It literally means generating the divine. Entheo divine. Generate.
So
what is that encompass? What does that encompass?
I actually don't know how to describe that because I didn't suggest it. What's an entheogen? You suggested that word.
Can you describe that a little bit?
An entheogen means finding God within. En within. Via God genesis. So it's a substance that facilitates the finding
Okay.
of God.
What is it?
Well, yeah. All right.
Okay, so
Take that.
okay, so the first poll is for entheogen. Who agrees to that word? All right, we need to count. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,
It
11,
sounds
12,
like there's
13, 14, 15, 16,
a
17,
clarifying question.
19.
I have a question.
Okay, so 19 people for entheogen. What's the question?
Well, it requires. I need it in order to be able to vote.
No, just ask
Okay.
the question.
Right. So what I understand what an entheogen is, but what are the substances that are included? Like I feel like it's
Great question.
very open.
Who wants to answer that?
Yeah.
All the good ones.
Introduce God inside.
Yes. It's very open.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I understand this? Who in the group, if entheogen is this definition of finding God within, who in the group wants is okay with it being both plant and synthetic? And then who in the group is saying, I only want plant? Because that feels like that might be the only distinction right here.
Plant, but one plant.
Sure.
It seems like if you say plant medicine, anything that generates this response, that's plant medicine is automatically included.
This is correct.
But some is made in the lab and some is grown.
I do like to see
Oh, yeah.
So a lot of the really good research on psilocybin currently.
It's
not
it's
synthesized.
Yeah.
You can also get with like
Can I just
synthetics.
make
you
one
get
on
exact
that? Is that one of the strongest entheogens known is the 5-MeO DMT that's produced by the Sonoran desert toad. And if we want to do something that's more sustainable, those toads they're being put in like huge warehouses. They're not being done sustainably. There might be a way to do that, but when we're working with something that's that powerful, it might be within our best interest to consider the synthesized version, just because we can be more sustainable that way.
All very valid ideas.
Does anybody want to be told what they can and can't put in their body?
Well, so party people, hello. Yes. Part of this DAO game is that within a pretty short amount of time, we want to agree on a lot of things. So we don't want to go too deep into anything, and we've gone too deep here. So